Payday Super is now live, marking one of the most significant changes to superannuation in recent years. By bringing super contributions closer to real time, the reform is improving visibility, timeliness, and transparency across the system. Now, while this is a significant positive step forward, it doesn't mean that every challenge disappears overnight. Businesses are now adapting to more frequent super payments while continuing to manage the realities of cash flow, payroll processes, and broader economic pressures. To help us understand what this looks like in practice, we're joined today by two experts who see the impacts of these changes firsthand. We have Tanya Drerup. Welcome, Tanya. Tanya's the Global Wealth Product Manager at Employment Hero. Tanya brings insight into employer readiness and the practical changes that businesses are navigating. We're also joined today by Roberto Crispino. Welcome, Roberto. Roberto is the principal at Worrells who works with businesses experiencing financial stress and can provide valuable perspective on the challenges that some employers may be facing. Together today, we're going to explore what has changed since Payday Super has been introduced, what employers are currently experiencing on the ground, and what this means for employers, funds, and their members. Tanya, now that Payday Super is live, what are you seeing in terms of employer readiness and how businesses are adjusting to the change?
Great question. So we can see that across the industry, awareness is very high with Payday Super. Where the employer readiness sits is quite uneven though. With larger employers, they're more ready, they're more prepared. They usually have payroll teams, dedicated people who are preparing the business for this change.
Yeah.
Where we see the least prepared employers is usually within the SMB space. You know, your mum and dad pop shops who the business owner is the payroll person as well. So there's a lot of change that's impacting them. With Payday Super as well, there's a big learning curve, new acronyms such as MVR, member verification request, that employers are obligated to use, check to ensure that the super is going into the right account, is being introduced, new super stream data, new pre-validation information that's being presented. Like these are things that is a big learning curve for a small to medium-sized employer, let alone a large business as well. And to compound this, the changes are happening in the financial year. So wage reviews, increase in inflation, it is a big stack on stack of impact for employers.
Yeah, it's absolutely significant. Roberto, does that align with what you're seeing on the ground? And particularly, you know, for businesses that may be under significant financial pressure or already existing operational pressures?
It does align with what we're seeing on the ground. I think for financially healthy businesses, the Payday Super changes is largely an administrative change. They may have had to update some payroll systems, but are largely handling that well. The challenges tend to be more pronounced for those businesses that are struggling financially and operationally. Historically, some businesses have seen their super obligations as a quarterly obligation that they could delay until later in the cycle. But these Payday Super changes have removed much of that flexibility. In terms of readiness, the SME market, most businesses have had a look into their processes that need to be changed to make the more regular payments, but there seems to have been a lack of planning or awareness from a cash flow forecasting or working capital management point of view.
Yeah, I'm assuming there's probably a lot of businesses that have really misjudged how much extra working capital they're going to need to commence paying these payments so regularly from day one.
Correct, and that the flexibility that they had relied on in the past is now largely gone. So there will be some short-term impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Tanya, what are the main concerns or pressure points that employers are raising now that they need to manage these super payments much more frequently than what they were before?
I think you both already touched on it, which is around the cash flow impacts. At Employment Hero, we did modelling with our average size employers, and we've worked out that your average size employer needs about $124,000, working cash flow that needed to be moved up front, right? And so that's a big change for them.
Significant,
Yeah, and the other pressure, like with super payment, the employer paid it quarterly, and they had time to fix any data issues or anything operational issues. With employers now moving to Payday, there are shorter timeframes to remediate, operational processes to uplift, to get uplifted. So they're the biggest pressures that we're seeing impact employers.
Yep, absolutely. So, Roberto, when you're seeing those kinds of pressures exist, particularly around cash flow, how can they impact on a business's ability to meet their super obligations on time?
Well, it's a massive impact, and Tanya's touched on it already. That cash flow will be the main issue that companies and businesses will face in meeting their obligations. For many businesses, cash flow is not a straight line. They are waiting on customer payments, seasonal fluctuations, increases in interest rates have increased financing costs. So having to deal with those issues. Payday Super means that the super obligations are now aligned with their payroll events, and businesses have less ability now to manage short-term cash flow disruptions. So it increases the importance of transparency and really accurate cash flow forecasting and capital management.
And working closely sort of in the insolvency space at the moment, are you seeing an increase in the number of businesses going to insolvency? Are there any patterns that are already emerging?
The number of insolvencies has been increasing over the last few years post-COVID. I don't think we've yet seen the true impact of these Payday Super changes, but I think in future we will see an increased number of insolvencies with this impact and this obligation being much more sudden.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tanya, beyond cash flow pressure, what are some of the other common reasons that employers may struggle to meet their obligations on time?
Yeah. Well, we see a lot of unpaid super is not necessarily a solvency problem, but an operational problem as well. So employers, to pay super, they are using around 4 separate systems: your payroll platform, banking platforms, clearinghouse platforms. They're disconnected. Lots of human errors potential to happen when you use disconnected systems and processes. And also, employees changed funds without telling their employer, meaning the employer is unaware and pays to the wrong account. So all those things have a net effect and compounds, and is going to surface up every payday now rather than every quarterly.
Yeah, and I guess, data is such an important thing in this day and age, but with Payday Super now, it's so crucial. One typo can create a huge phenomenal
100%.
flow-on effect, can't it?
Yeah, 100%. So one thing that we've been advising our employees is get your data right before payday, or that's what we were advising them. And we're seeing that now in terms of the pre-validation errors that are showing up in dashboards, that they're still trying to get on top of that data issue.
Gosh. Okay. Roberto, with Payday Super increasing the frequency of payments, how are businesses needing to think differently about their cash flow planning and those operational pressures?
I think Tanya hit the nail on the head with the comments regarding, cash is key. So operationally, businesses need to make sure that they are having accurate cash flow forecasting, ensuring there's sufficient cash reserves to meet these obligations, so that they can deal with short-term cash disruptions. So whilst the intention may be to ensure that your obligations are paid in full, when there are some cash flow difficulties, that's where problems can arise. So greater emphasis and focus on forecasting and getting on top of your cash flow management.
Yeah, and I guess, Tanya, when you were mentioning before, a lot of businesses, are small mum and dad businesses, and they become the payroll experts, but they actually may not have a background in payroll. So cash flow forecasting may be something they're actually not even familiar with. So it is, I guess, quite a big challenge then for those smaller employers.
It is, and that may be an opportunity for those smaller employees to seek professional advice early to ensure that they are set up in the background to deal with these challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got one last question that I'd like to ask to both of you. So we know Payday Super is going to improve timeliness and the visibility. Do you think, Tanya, it's going to eliminate unpaid super, or do you think we will still see some instances of unpaid super?
I think Payday Super will address the timeliness issue, but I think we will still see unpaid super because it doesn't remove inconsistencies straight away. It doesn't remove data issues, and there's also going to surface up cash flow issues sooner rather than later. I think that'll be the biggest change.
Yeah. And what about you, Roberto? Do you think Payday Super is going to solve the unpaid super problem?
It will ensure that there's more visibility, timeliness, and transparency on what the obligations are. However, it doesn't fundamentally fix an underlying financial problem with a business. What it will do is it will bring those problems to the attention of stakeholders much sooner, in aligning with payroll events rather than end of quarter. From an insolvency and restructuring perspective, unpaid super has always been a clear test of a business that is struggling. So what this will do is it will increase the transparency and highlight to business owners and stakeholders that there is a problem. So it makes it an opportunity to seek advice sooner to help failing businesses. So while I don't think unpaid super will disappear entirely, what it will do is it will increase some compliance, but it will lead to a faster identification of problems, which is a better outcome for all employees.
Absolutely. And I think it's good that we'll be able to see members actually logging into their accounts now and knowing how much super they're expecting to go in each pay, because that has been a challenge in the past when the employees are seeing the one lump sum payment go in for a quarter and they're like, I don't know how much I was expecting. So I think this is a great thing for members. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's clear today from our conversation, Payday Super is a significant and positive reform. It gives much greater visibility, brings super contributions closer to real time, and it helps us identify issues earlier than under the previous quarterly cycle. But increased visibility is only valuable if it leads to action. Payday Super changes the timing and transparency of super payments, but it doesn't remove every operational challenge. Cash flow pressure or the process gaps can lead to unpaid or delayed super. And that's why education, early engagement, and clear support pathways remain so important. The earlier issues that are identified, the greater the opportunity we have to resolve them before they escalate. Now, that's going to be better for employers, better for funds, and most importantly, better for members. Thank you again so much to Tanya Drerup and to Roberto Crispino for joining me today and sharing your insights. We hope this conversation has provided a practical understanding of what Payday Super means in practice and why proactive support will continue to play an important role in delivering better outcomes for members.